Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The February 11, 2004 meeting of the Palm Springs Planning Commission. Alex, do we have a report on the posting of the agenda?
Yes, Chairman, we do. The agenda was posted in accordance with state and local procedures on Friday, February 6th.
We have some minutes to approve, and I think there are two sets of minutes. Although the agenda only refers to one, but I know we have some minutes here
Corrected.
from the meeting of January 14, 2004. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
Move approval.
I'll second.
Second. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Those minutes will be approved. And then we have some corrected minutes. These are the minutes of September 10, 2003. And do we have a motion to approve the minutes as corrected?
I so move.
Okay, a second?
I'll
Mr.
second.
Thank you, Mr. Hokenadel. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? They're approved. The next item on our agenda is public comments. Anyone here wishing to address any matter of concern to the Planning Commission may do so at this time. Please confine your comments to 3 minutes. Give us your name and address and sign the clipboard before you leave. If you're here on a matter that's on our agenda, we would appreciate your saving your comments until that matter is called, but if you wish to speak now, you're certainly free to do so. Anybody wishing to address the Planning Commission at this time? Seeing none, our public hearing items will start at 2 o'clock, so that gives us some time before those items are ready to be called. And so we'll move to our architectural approval items. First one is item number 6. Application by Sanborn AE for Sunrise Square Shopping Center for Roy Carver to remove one existing building and build 2 new retail pads located at 1751 North Sunrise Way, Zone CDN, Section 2. Do we have a staff report on that matter?
Yes, we do. Matthew Fesky will be delivering the report.
Thank you. At the request of the tribe, we are going to ask the commissioners to continue this item till the next Planning Commission meeting.
Right. Do we have a motion to continue the matter until the next meeting?
So moved.
Second? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Hokenadel. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll continue item number 6 to the next Planning Commission meeting. The next item is case 3.2466, application by Michael Kaplan and James Chiaffi Architects for a new single-family residence located at 1745 Adlar Road, part of the Pinnacle Point Development, Zone PD 79, Section 36. Staff report on that matter, please.
Gabriel Diaz will make the presentation on this case.
Thank you, Commissioners. You have previously, in our past Planning Commission, you saw a previous home proposed by the same architect, James Chiaffi, in this development. The home that was previously approved by you was Lot 5, which is here. No, it was actually Lot 6. And then we have this new proposal. Actually, Lot 5 was approved, and then Lot 6 here is our new proposal for this subdivision. The materials that are being used for this home are some block. We do have a metal being proposed, and design review did have design review okayed the proposed materials. It does meet code as far as building height. The building height goes from 22 here to 24 there on the east elevation. North elevation to the pad here is 30 feet, and 26 on this side. This would be the front view from the cul-de-sac, and the rear elevation is 22 feet, which you see here, and they do have an infinity pool in the back. This subdivision was approved a while ago. As far as the code requirements in the CCNRs, it states that it should meet building code. Any questions?
Any questions of Mr. Diaz? I was at the design review meeting where this item was presented, and it was the home was very well received by the design review. Who and I don't think there were any conditions, Gabriel, any conditions placed on it by the design review.
The only condition which is in the conditions is for a final landscape plan to be a desert native landscaping plan, and applicant states that that will be done.
Anybody wishing to address the commission on this matter before we move ahead? Any more comments, emotions?
I'll make a motion that we approve case 3.2466.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously, 6-0. That takes us to item number 8. This is a sign program, application by Desert Chapel for a sign program for an existing church located at 630 Sunrise Way, Zone R1C, Section 24.
Gabriel Diaz will also make this presentation.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. The reason the sign program is up here for you today is because that all sign programs need to be approved by a planning commission. And according to our zoning code, churches may only be subject to only 20 square feet. And as you can see, they do have a big site here that you have the church, and then you have the school. And in my opinion, as staff's opinion, was to come up with a sign program that architecturally meets the architecture of the buildings. You have two monument signs, A and then B. Here's A, and then here's E. Both signs are made of, it's going to be an aluminum with a stucco to match the building, and they're both rounded, so they match the building. A design review like the design, it matches well with the building, and the only condition associated with those two monument signs was the irrigation. Our condition is that irrigation shall not spray the sign because of the mildew that'll build up over time. The letters are aluminum letters, stud mounted, about 9.5 inches tall for the high school sign, which is here, and then A, which is the Desert Chapel. We have also signs for the buildings, just to name them: gymnasium, sanctuary. So when people are walking around, the buildings are easily identified. Those are a Plex Centra letters. Design review agreed with that style and with the material.
Thank you, Gabriel. Any questions of staff regarding this matter? Anyone here wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, do we have any further questions, comments, or motions?
Nobody's going to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of Desert Chapel's application for a sign program.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a second, motion and a second for approval of this application. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 6-0. Moving right along. Taking us to item number 9, street lighting. A request by the Agua Caliente Band of Kuya Indians to install street lights at the following intersections: Calle Encilia and Amado Road, Calle Encilia and Andreas Road, El Segundo and Amado Road, and El Segundo and Andreas Road in Section 14. I see here a request that this matter be continued to the Planning Commission meeting of February 25, 2004. And I don't think we need any action on that, so unless there's any question, we'll go ahead and continue that matter to the meeting of February 25, 2004. We're still waiting for 2 o'clock. I see Mr. Evans has arrived. Mr. Evans, we've worked our way all the way down to
Commission.
item 10, Commission Work Program. Do you want to, are you out of breath, or do you want to go ahead and address those items? We can take a break and come back at 2 if we've caught you unprepared. Although I can't imagine that happening.
Never out of breath.
And never out of breath.
Out of gas sometimes, but not out of breath. Shall I work on number 10, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, let's go ahead and do number 10.
Okay, the General Plan Steering Committee had a meeting since your last meeting, and they talked a little bit about Section 14. Obviously, that's been in the news. It was on their previous monthly meeting. There was a good debate about, its merits and issues, and no action or direction was taken, although people had various opinions. And I think they had a good debate about, the role of the city and the tribe and the planning process. So I think the goal of the General Plan Steering Committee meetings right now is really to try and educate everybody and get everybody up to speed on the various activities in town. From the standpoint that the Section 14 Master Plan, it's not a subcommittee report, but I'll just tell you, we had a very, very well-attended workshop open house last week. We had 350 people sign in the large conference room. We found out that we can accommodate a large number of people. And people, thankfully saw the notices that it wasn't a presentation meeting, and people came as early as 20 minutes of 3, and the last people left at 6:30.
Wow.
And it was a nonstop question-answer session. The tribal staff was here, Tom Davis, Margaret Parks, and Michael Atencio, answering questions face-to-face, one-on-one, in groups. Your staff was in attendance. Jing, Amanda Station, Alex was in the room for a while, Lee Hoosfelt, John Raymond, and Kurt Watts were also there. So we had the redevelopment agency, both planning staffs. The city attorney was there to answer some questions and some long-term history. So we had what I thought was a very good update. Our goal was to not convince anybody of anything. It was to answer people's questions. And virtually for the entire length of the meeting, most of the people that were answering questions had somewhere probably between 10 and 15 people gathered about them so people could hear other people's questions. And I can tell you that just by the way the meeting flowed, I answered probably the same questions in 6 different cycles because most people came in and when they were cycled to a new group, they had the same questions. And it was nice because we could say, where do you live? Okay, and what are your concerns about where you live? And we could point out the various condominium projects and the like. Some people, I think, left with the information they wanted, and I know that some people came expecting to see a big presentation, and possibly even another public hearing type format. But this was really to try to be more one-on-one. And, we're debriefing at this point. We're putting together task lists on what we need to do. We know that we're going to meet with the property owners on Via Calusa who back up to Alejo. They're very concerned about what happens to the expansion of Alejo. And I think they were quite pleased to hear that the Section 14 plan has a proposal that requires less right-of-way. than the current city general plan. And we've known for 15 or 20 years that we're going to have to do something unique there. And we were able to put some of those concerns to rest, or at least tell people we're going to contact you and go out and meet with 7 or 8 property owners one-on-one so that they can understand what it means in their immediate neighborhood. So we've got some work to do. We still do not have a city council meeting scheduled. We're debating venues so that we have enough room. And you know, we're also going to let people kind of digest some of the information that they've picked up. So I think we had a very good attendance, and I think the feedback on exit interviews, Lee Husfeldt did that. We also asked people to fill out forms. I think most people were at least satisfied that they had an opportunity to ask questions. And then we hope people make up their mind and then come to a spirited council meeting and let the city council know what their feelings are one way or another. That was the only purpose of the meeting, was to educate.
Just a comment, Mr. Evans. I was delighted to see that event take place. I was also delighted to see the number of people that attended because I think after our Planning Commission meeting of 2 weeks ago and all of the misinformation that had been spread around on this project, that the more that people understand the project, the more thoroughly they understand it, I think the better off the city will be. And so I was very happy that you did that. You and the tribe and the other staff people who were there had this session, and I think good will come of it. So I think you're to be congratulated on that.
Well, thank you. All the staff worked real hard to stand on your feet for 4 hours. Sometimes without even a cup of water, and just answer questions was a challenging experience. But I can tell you it was very rewarding to have the dialogue with people and be able to talk to people really about what's most important to them. We did have one gentleman who actually has been quite colorful in all this. He goes by the name of Lobo. He actually removed his opposition shirt, brought it back into the building, and publicly threw it away for everybody, tore up his opposition. And at the mayor's lunch today, his shirt was in a mannequin up at the front of the stage. We know that we didn't get that kind of reaction from everybody, and it certainly wasn't ours, but he's a gentleman with passion about the community, and it was an interesting response. And he also had a letter to the editor in the paper today that was written before he came to the workshop. So, knowing Lobo, he'll probably write another one. But it's the type of thing. The goal is to get information out. Commissioner Hokenadel was there. We put him on the spot. And we had a gentleman actually asking us where in the budget the planning commissioner's salaries were. And it just so
I've been wondering the same thing.
It just so happened that Commissioner Hokenadel was standing right next to me, and I put him on the spot. And because the gentleman had the budget and had all the staff's allocated positions and was trying to figure out where the commission was hidden in the budget. And I with pleasure indicated that you are a pure volunteer group, and you come from the community, and you're here to do community service. A lot of people are misinformed on what your role is also. Mr. Chairman, that's an update on the Section 14 master plan, and I'm sure we'll give you more updates in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Next item would be item number 11, City Council update.
Mr. Chairman, I think the key planning issue you're fully briefed on by reading the newspaper. The council did approve to split the planning department into 2 departments. There will be a transition period. It's going to take us several months to get people hired, get offices established, and things of that nature. So until further update, you'll be working with the staff that you have, and we look forward to working with you. Beyond that, it was a pretty quiet night for planning issues last week. And tonight, the City Council has a couple of items on the agenda. The only one that could have a planning implication is assessment district financing for projects. We have a number of residential projects that would like to be financed through assessment district for the public improvements. And those public improvements, oftentimes in many communities in the Coachella Valley are done through assessment districts. And the council is going to get an overview of the assessment district policy, the process, and then we'll get council direction on how they want to handle assessment districts. But that's the update on the city council actions.
Commission staff reports and requests. Anybody have anything?
I just have a comment. Doug, as you heard probably at today's State of the City address, the mayor had Chairman Milanovic come up and speak, and I thought what he had to say about Section 14 was eloquent, and hopefully it might be something that the council considers on the night that they hear that item.
The two councils have had several meetings on Section 14 master plan. They were public meetings. In fact, one presentation was very well attended. So, the word has gotten out through various sources that we've been working on this for a long time. That we'll certainly encourage the mayor to make a phone call.
Anyone else have anything? We're still a couple minutes shy of 2 o'clock. No one has a joke they want to tell or anything? We'll take a 2-minute recess or a 3-minute recess and call our public hearing items just maybe a couple minutes after 2. Give everybody a chance to make a quick phone call. I will call the meeting back to order. Thank you, Gabriel. 2 o'clock has arrived. We'll take our public hearing items. First item is item number 3, tentative track map 28610, application by Matzner and Oliphant, a California General Partnership for relief from conditions of approval 24 and 25, requiring the underground relocation of above-ground utility lines that are less than 35 kV, inclusive of the power line running north-south through the eastern portion of Lot 20, and those lines on or adjacent to this project located on the north side of Tachiva Drive between Avenida Caballeros and Sunrise Way, R1C Zone, Section 11.
Mr. Chairman, I have a conflict of interest. I own lots 17, 18, and 19, so I'll be excusing myself.
Okay. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. The item before you is clarification and review of some conditions of approval. You may refer or have heard of this tract as the Strebe Tract. It was approved by the Commission in '98, as well as the Council in September of '98. Conditions 24 and 25 require the undergrounding of all utility lines prior to the issuance of occupancy permits. Condition requires that everything under 35 kilovolts be undergrounded, as well as all new service by the project. Previously, and as part of the site improvements, the lines along Tachiva and all the underground service was, all the service into the project and future lots were undergrounded, but the lines in the back and to the west were left above ground. There's a couple of sections in the report that we talked to you about general plan policies and ordinance provisions. Section 8.0 of the code on new construction states specifically that existing and proposed electric lines of 35,000 volts or less and overhead service drops which are on site, abutting, or transecting are to be installed underground. Again, the issue is dealing primarily with the north and west boundaries. What I'm going to do is approach the board, kind of walk you through it. I do want to call attention into your packet. There's some correspondence from some of the neighboring property owners. We had one letter that was also delivered today. The applicant has hired a utility consultant who would like to make a presentation. We've summarized their findings in the report that in order to relocate this line or underground it, Edison would require the relocation, bless you, of the line along the front yards of the properties that back to these, along Pasatiempo, which would require essentially about 3,000 linear foot of utility lines undergrounding, in addition to the service drops, new meters, and such. Estimated cost there is about $1.1 million, or about $68,000 per unit. What I'd like to do is walk you across the site and through the exhibits. Also, we have Ron Nicholas, our civil engineering associate, who is present and will also be able to answer any technical questions you may have on this matter. Again, tentative map 28610 takes frontage off of Tachiva. Calle Rolf is here. Pasatiempo Road is in this location. And we're about a block and a half to the east of Caballeros, which would be over in this area. The subdivision was an approval which allowed a number of lots which would be accessed through 4 cul-de-sacs and then directly from Tachiva Drive. The existing utility line along Tachiva was undergrounded, as was future connections for service to the future lots. On this exhibit, you can see this was taken, one of our aerials, prior to commencement of construction activities. However, it doesn't really show in a way that you can see with that magnifying glass is the locations of the service drops. What we've done is we've put X's here where the poles are. This issue arose as neighboring property owners were concerned about the issue of whether service was going to be located underground. When we took a look at it and visited in the field, all of these are off-site. All the utilities above ground that remain were off-site. Engineering is of the opinion that they are abutting, according to our definition, and then therefore would be required to be undergrounded. We'll answer any questions you may have, and this concludes staff's presentation.
Of the existing power, what provides service to the new development?
The line serving the new development was relocated underground, and you have service underground to these future units, the units that are under construction right now. So all of their services are underground.
Okay, that just provides service to the residences off of the street to the north, not to the project. Okay.
Correct. As a correction or addition, as well as the unit directly to the west.
Alex, one question I have, well, I think I'll hold it until we have the public hearing.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and unless there are other questions, we'll open the public hearing and get the rest of the information, and then if we have questions, we can deal with them maybe after that. Any other questions of staff? If not, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter, please come forward. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Give us your name and address and sign the clipboard before you leave.
Ralph Hitchcock of Ralph Hitchcock and Associates Utility Consulting for the applicant.
Mr. Hitchcock, could you just get a little closer to the microphone so the television will pick you up.
It's not long enough. For you that don't know me, I've had 35 years with the Southern California Edison Company, where I was involved in the design, construction, and operation of these systems. My last couple of years with the company, I was also the chairman of the department who managed and organized these projects within the system. For the last 6 years, my consulting related some undergrounding that otherwise would not have qualified per the city ordinance. So I concur and have for years with the intent of the ordinance and the application of trying to underground as many poles as practical. There are a number of issues here, however. One unique piece of property where 3 sides of the property had existing overhead utilities, and the applicant, per their understanding of the condition placed upon them, converted that portion along to Chiva to underground and I wasn't involved in the project at the time, but my guess would have been somewhere in $175,000 to $200,000 of conversion cost that's already taken place to underground the pole line that was along Chiva. Secondarily to that, and as the question was asked, that new underground line is the source of feed for the transformers and the service system within this tract. The utilities, Edison particularly, has a requirement that for access and construction and maintenance for their underground systems, that they must be accessible, which means not on the rear property line, but would be along the street. The line to the westerly side of the project, the overhead line, serves existing overhead services to those houses to the west. The line that's along the north side serves overhead services to those houses that are located north of the property. To, in effect, design a system that would allow for the replacement of the westerly and northerly overhead lines would require coming from the southwest corner of the project down to Caballeros up and across and back in on Pasatiempo to create the underground system that would then trigger a rebuilding of services, orienting those services from the overhead rear property line to a front property line. And as noted in the staff report, my estimate of that work is somewhere in the $1.1 to $1.3 million. So extremely expensive for value received. So in my judgment, there are two issues. One, the extreme, the fact that the developer has done that's doable and practical. The extreme cost of this additional undergrounding, and the simple fact that if requesting them to exercise that condition, you would be requiring them to do work on another person's property, which clearly I do not believe you or the city have the ability to do. So for economic conditions, and simply because I believe the application of undergrounding on the westerly and north side is not doable because of the requirement that you can't have them doing work on somebody else's property. So for those reasons, we request that you accept that they have done the intent of the undergrounding ordinance that they can do on the Toshiba side, and recognize that the westerly and northerly portion are not achievable under the current circumstance.
Thank you, Mr. Hitchcock. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
Hello, my name is Patricia Yunker, and I sent you a letter, and I sent the same copy of the letter to the city council, and included the copy of the ordinances for underground wires. What I was going to say, I want to just kind of dovetail on what he said, is I have a difficult time believing the man from Edison, even though that's his expertise, because the pole that feeds those houses is right across the street. You just put new underground wire right up to the property. Why could you not, why could you not just extend it from that pole? It's there. You don't have to run down to Caballeros. The electricity is there. But that's not what I really wanted to say, but I'd like you to at least consider that, because it doesn't make sense to me. If the pole is there and the neighboring property has electricity, why you couldn't just feed into that? My concern is the poles, period. And as I wrote in my letter, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but when we bought our house, we've been 15 years on our address, and we have a power pole in our backyard, but we didn't know that until we were in the house about 3 days because of all the trees that were there. And these poles are tremendously hazardous. And I know they did studies in Wisconsin, and I cited them. And in Wisconsin, they said that there is a minimal risk, but the risk is there. And in Wisconsin, they're outside 2 to 3 months of the year. We live in our backyard. My grandchildren swim under that pool all of the time. We're outside all the time. Those poles in our neighborhood need to be buried. And if you leave this contractor keep the poles up, the poor man or woman or people that are coming into this house are going to eventually have to bury them, because we want our poles buried. And so I'd be angry if I bought a brand new house in a city that had an ordinance where you couldn't have poles in your backyard, and you allowed that to come in, and it were me, I would be very angry. So I'm asking you, please, not to give this variance, but look at an alternative way to get electricity to that property. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak?
I'm Maureen Gilmer, and I'm on Collier Rolfe. To the immediate, that would be on the east end of this tract, and my house abuts the single-family dwelling that is a part of this project but is not contiguous with the project, which I think is kind of odd. And the reason I noticed this house originally was because it enjoyed a 6-foot block wall out in front of its building, where I was told by the city last year that I couldn't go over 3.5 to 4 feet on my front wall. And I understand that it was part of a larger project, but as a single-family dwelling, not contiguous to the rest of the project, I felt that that was somewhat unfair application of that ordinance. But in this case, I understand that this developer chooses to get a variance so that he or she does not have to underground the utility to that particular house, which is the only one that I'm concerned about at this time. And right now, at the back of my house, there's a pole that sits in the corner of a flag lot that is accessed from the north. And that pole actually has 3 high-tension wires at the top. It has 2 standard electrical house wires running off it. It has 2 more phone wires off it, and 3 guy wires, as well as, among them, the electrical wire to the Strebe house, which actually passes over this new lot in order to get to the original Strebe house. So all of these wires are being fed by this. And my concern is that now I will have an additional wire for this $750,000 house next door to me because somebody can't afford to put it underground. And to me, that seems somewhat inequitable. So my concern is not the main part of the project, but the privileges granted to this one single-family dwelling that was lumped in with the project. And if the variance is not carried, if the variance is allowed, then this single-family dwelling will enjoy privileges unlike anyone else in the city, and to me that seems somewhat unfair. So that's my big concern, that if it doesn't apply to the rest of the project, at least it should apply to this single-family dwelling that is not contiguous. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I live on Pasatiempo Road, and
Can you give us your name and address, please?
it's Marguerite Bain, and I'm 1171 Pasatiempo. From what I read in this, it said that any of the lands abutting the project were supposed to get the underground wiring, and my land would be abutting, and it's right behind there. And that's what this company signed before they even built these $1 million homes. And I just think it would only be fair that they have to, do what they said they do. I think these lines were put in 1948. Someone told me that a transformer fell into a pool, and that somebody else has gotten electrocuted trying to trim around these things. And I just think that, if they're going to put in these big homes, they ought to do the upgrades like they said they would. My other question was, my neighbor told me that they set back this fence about 2 feet, which would put the utility poles on our side of the fence. So I'm wondering whose side the utility poles are actually even on, if anyone's done a survey lately to find out if they're on their property or on mine or what. So I have that question. So, and I also don't think it would be fair that these $1 million homes that this company gets out of doing this, even though they signed something saying they would do it. So
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you.
Did you sign a clipboard? Thank you.
I'm Paul Van Niest at 1431 Tachiva Drive. I look across the street at the one single house that has the supposed poles that are going to stay up, and I can see that it blocks the view. I was really looking forward to that going away. I think in our neighborhood we're hoping to get rid of power lines and to leave this up, especially on a new home. Against the previous rules. It doesn't seem okay, and I just want to support my neighbors, and we want to get rid of our poles, not keep them up or put up more. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and go back to the commission for questions and comments. Mr. Wright?
Alex, the poles that are still there, are they on the new lots or on the lots adjacent to the new developed property?
My understanding, and I was only able to walk through the site that's under construction right now, the poles there are abutting, which means they're actually behind the new wall or the walls that were constructed previously. They're not on the site. That it's on the lot that was created as part of the subdivision for the existing house. I couldn't see. I did peer over the fence, but I couldn't see clearly that that was on that lot when I was there. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was indeed on the lot that serves the existing house. But it does seem to me that it should have been, that would have been undergrounded at the time of the original improvements.
Other questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Mr. Matthews.
This house to the east that one of the speakers was talking about, that it's a single house sort of separate from the others, is my understanding was all these houses were served with underground drops. Is that not the case? Anybody know about that? Ralph, can you address that? Yeah.
Mr. Hitchcock, if you'd come back to the podium, you might just stay up here in the front row until we're finished with this item, because there may be some other questions you can help us with.
There seems to be the issue I'm after. There's apparently one house in particular that one of the speakers addressed.
Could Alex, could you point out the lot that single house is located? Because I've heard it was not a part of this tract, and I'm not sure. But within the yellow portion, Alex, which is the lot, the house that the lady was talking about, that's the new house, single-family house?
I can help you also.
Is it within the yellow portion of the?
Tracy Conrad's.
Yeah, okay. All of the houses, and whether it was in or out, new houses get underground services.
That's
so
what I.
The
so
pole would
every,
stay. That pole, the service to the house would be underground. If it's within the yellow on the track, then the services, and within the track, the new electrical system, distribution system to serve those services, is installed underground.
Okay.
That's not converting the pole, and there are no. When I looked at the project, I don't remember seeing any poles on that easterly boundary. They're on the closer to Kali Rolfe.
Okay. So all the new construction is under the power to them is underground.
Within the track.
That track.
Yes.
But the pole that they're discussing is probably the one feeding the Strebe property, which sort of runs across. It's another issue.
The way I heard it, it's the house at the rear property line of those houses that are on Kali Rolfe.
That's right here.
And, yeah, there's some open lot area there.
So there's really, I think I too, when possible, want to underground power where we can, but there's a couple of relief or items of relief within the ordinance. One here is you came up with a cost of about $1.3 million. Is that and that's because of the fences and the.
Well,
why is that?
That's because of because that has to be installed in the street.
So that it would have to be removed from the rear lots and moved to the front.
Yes, and to get from the corner of the feeder portion of the system around to Pasatiempo for that new system is about 1,300 feet to get around there.
Okay.
You have to go down to Caballeros and up and around.
And you would essentially abandon the rear line pole?
Yes.
Okay. And the, okay.
If I've done a number of organizing for assessment districts, if the neighbors in any place in the community want to get rid of their poles, they have the opportunity to form community assessment districts and get that work done. Quite candidly, I came back to Palm Springs in '75, and I have yet to see a community underground conversion assessment district be put together and worked. They get sticker shock and decide it's not that bad after all. But it's a tool that's available to them.
Okay, that's all I have, sir.
Ralph, a question on rerouting the utilities. The $1+ million, does that include the improvement of the service drop from the street back to the existing service for each of the residences, or is that an additional cost?
In a typical, well, in this case, I lumped the dollars in simply because it's a cost that would have to be borne. Okay. And I was trying to create the total magnitude. In a normal Rule 20A utility underground conversion district, the cost of the service conversion on the property and the meter panel conversion to accommodate that is at the expense of the property owner and is normally $1,200 to $2,000, subject to not having to, again, when you're coming off of the front property line, landscaping, sidewalk, or driveways and patios and those kinds of things. But in this case, I added those figures just simply to give a gross magnitude of the project, not assigning responsibility for.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Morantz?
Alex, who owns the property where the poles are right now?
The property to the west, on the line to the west is off-site. So those are the neighboring property owners. The lines to the north, which are in the backyard of the properties on Pasatiempo, they're all off-site. They're all on the other side of the wall, so those would be the neighboring property owners.
They're not the on the property in question.
That's correct. There was an issue that was raised by the lady who resides on Calle Rolfe, and I was unaware that there were utility lines in those two furthermost lots over there. So that's something I didn't get a handle on when I was in the field.
Okay, but at this time, the existing poles that are on the north of this project.
They're off-site.
They're off-site. Okay, thank you.
For point of information, the overhead easement that would be there to accommodate the original placing of those poles and facilities would overlap and be on both properties. There are, in fact, guying facilities that are on the subject property. So in reality, it's somewhat arbitrary. The side of the property line that the utility chooses to put the poles on doesn't change the circumstance that it's feeding overhead services for the properties on the north and the overall financial impact to if we had to accomplish that.
Yeah, and my question at this point has to be, when this property was being developed, before the homes were even built, if this was supposed to be done, why wasn't it done, and how did it slip by all of the approvals from the city and everybody else? How did it not get done before the houses started being built?
The property to the north?
If it was part of this project when it was the Strebe,
well,
whatever it was called.
At the time that the lady gave a date, which is probably fairly accurate for the installation of those poles. And even though Palm Springs has some of the earliest underground systems in Southern California, the fact is that up until the early 1970s, standard utility construction was overhead wood poles.
No, that isn't my question. My question is when this new project was being developed, before the houses were built, if this was something that was supposed to be done, why wasn't it done, and why didn't the city or why didn't somebody see that it was done?
Are we talking about the project in yellow or the houses to the north?
Well, here's the problem. You're not communicating.
Okay.
Ms. Morantz is asking that in the conditions of approval for your project that you're here for, in the conditions of approval was a condition that these poles be undergrounded. And that's those are the conditions you're seeking relief from.
Okay.
And her question is, why weren't those poles undergrounded before now? And I think it's in the report, but go ahead and explain.
The developers here, but in effect, what they did at the time, recognizing the overhead services and the impracticality of the undergrounding, they undergrounded that they understood was applicable.
All right. Thank you. Other questions, Mr. Matthews?
No, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Right. Well, I'd like to ask a question real quick.
Go ahead.
Maybe before we take a motion, if everybody else has asked their question. We still have an open public hearing, I'm reminded. I haven't closed it. Anyone else wish to address the commission on this item? Yes, sir.
I would please My name's Evan Matzner. I'm one of the partners of the project. And just to clarify your question, we came into the project about a year ago. And when we were in the due diligence stage, we met with all the city officials to see what items were still open. At the time, we met with planning, building, and engineering, went through the conditions of approval, and they actually went as far as tallying up the remaining bonds that were needed to complete the project. There was, I'm guessing, I think 2 or 3 items that engineering at the time prior to our purchasing the development stated needed to be completed. They were capping the cul-de-sacs with the final lift of asphalt, raising the valves, and I think setting the site monuments for individual lots. When this all came up, it was after the fact, after we received our building permits. It was as a result of the neighbors adjoining the property. I don't think the language was clear enough in the original conditions of approval that stipulated the exact poles. The original grading plans show the poles on Tachiva as being existing to be removed, and on the northerly and the other property lines, they show them as existing to remain. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to address the commission on this matter? Just one. Everybody gets one chance. Well, come on up. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say there would have been a lot more people here. I wasn't even informed of this meeting. I called, and they called me about half an hour ago.
Okay.
I was at that meeting on the 28th, and I met 2 other guys that I'm sure they weren't informed either, because I don't see them. And I think a lot more, people who had homes abutting the project would have been here, but
Thank you.
was informed.
Anyone else now wishing to speak? I thought I closed the public hearing before, but I'm told I didn't, so I'll close the public hearing now. Did I? Michelle said I did. Okay.
I'm ready to make a motion, but did you want to add something? It looked like a sub-caucus meeting going on, or is everything fine?
We'll probably have to do some clarification before this goes to council, because there's, going to be some questions relative of what exactly was undergrounded, what wasn't. The commission wants to provide direction. We could clarify that before it goes up to council.
Is that relative to the east lots or all the lots?
Primarily east lots.
Okay.
Mr. Matthew, can I ask a question?
Go right ahead.
Yeah, just a couple, just a quick comment and then a question for Alex or Doug. We've had this situation come up before, and we have created this kind of an exception on other occasions when it was prohibitively expensive for the property developer to underground poles, and we've run into the problem before where the poles were not on the were on the neighboring property, and the question of whether or not we can even require the developer to do this work on a neighboring property. So I mean, this is something we've struggled with before, and we have made this exception before. But my question, Alex, is what happens now in the future, depending on what the final decision is? One is, I guess, we could say that the condition stands and the developers got to do this regardless of the cost, and so that's one thing. The other thing is to say that the developer doesn't have to do this. It's too expensive, unfair, and in that means then the poles stay. I mean, they remain. I guess then the last part of my question is, does it mean that they remain forever? Or is there any other way to get these poles undergrounded aside from or other than having the people who are affected by these poles form an assessment district and pay for it themselves? Is that the only way that this can get done?
The issue has come up multiple times before. Sometimes the poles are just on the developer's side, and then the issue is, can you get onto the private property, to underground? And normally Edison will not let you underground in a rear condition and then run an underground service from the rear property line to a meter, they're always going to ask that the poles or the electric line, and when you have double frontage lots like this, you end up having to run 2 lines to the respective street to the south and to the north. So it makes it a double expense, and I think that's what the applicant's concern is here. Our experience has been, when we've really pushed this issue with developers and neighbors, because of the fact somebody has to come on somebody's property and pay, or somebody has to pay for that, whether the developer offers to pay for it, or they basically say, we'll underground the line, but you're going to have to do the underground service to your meter. And, oh, by the way, you're going to have to change your meter from an above ground meter to a below ground meter. Our experience has been that the homeowners have not been very cooperative, not because they didn't want the undergrounding of utilities, but because they didn't want their property disrupted and they didn't want to participate financially. In cases where we've tried to put undergrounding districts together, where we've said, developer, neighbors, we'd like you to work together to underground these rear utility poles. We have been unsuccessful in getting the neighbors' cooperation in doing that because of the cost associated with that. We did one in Araby that was a neighborhood-driven request, that a group of neighbors were very actively interested in undergrounding utilities. We did all the work with Edison, put the dollar value together, had a neighborhood meeting, and that was the end of the project, because the majority of the neighbors didn't want to spend the $20,000 to $30,000 to $40,000. In some cases, it might be more, because maybe you have, 2 lines on your property. We've tried it over in Las Palmas area, where we've tried to do that. Same type of situation. The utility lines are left up because we've not been able to get the cooperation. I mean, the commission could do a number of things. You could outright delete the requirement for this utility line. You could ask us to bring back more information on the corner area, because you did have some questions, that were asked that I'm not sure we've fully answered as to why, but you may be comfortable with that. You certainly could tell the developer that the intent of the condition and the commission's original recommendation was to underground all the utilities and work it out. You could defer by covenant, but I can tell you on an undergrounding utility issue with residential and new owners, the covenant would not be enforceable at the end of the day, because you can't transfer from developer to property owner in a subdivision an undergrounding utility requirement. So those are the various options that you have, and we'll certainly try to help the commission craft a recommendation if you're so inclined.
So, I mean, in the final analysis, then, if we don't make the developer put these poles in, or if we don't make the developer adhere to the conditions, then it's really up to, these poles are going to stay there unless the neighbors get together, form an assessment district, and do it themselves.
Correct.
Okay.
And the other option is, in theory, you could ask the developer to put up a percentage of the cost of undergrounding. We would hold that money in an account, and I think under state law, I'd actually have to defer to the city engineer. But I think if we haven't appropriated that money and we don't have a project ready to go in 5 years, the money goes away. And so far, our success rate in underground utility districts has been 0.
That takes the wind out of my defer by covenant motion.
Yeah.
Because you're basically saying it doesn't handle.
On undergrounding utilities on residential, I don't think we would be successful in calling the covenant.
You wouldn't even want to have that in the unlikely event someone in the future ever want to do that? No. Okay. Then what we have in our ordinance is 2 things. We have essentially we have new construction where it's been undergrounded, but we're adjacent to existing development, and the cost of undergrounding, it would be excessive in my view, and therefore I would move that we grant relief to condition 24 and 25.
I'll second.
Any further comment?
Yeah, I just want to, for those who are here in the audience and whatever, and I know these things pop up, and you have the ability to appeal this and go to the city council and bring your neighbors in as well, because this is sort of a neighborhood issue, business-friendly issue, and but I think it's very clearly pretty outrageously expensive, and there's not an easy way around it by the way our ordinances are crafted. So,
any other comments?
I have a comment as well as, if the developer did run the lines around, it's going to be a big expense on the individual homeowners to
connect,
and they would have to do that, the same time all the poles come down. So they're going to have to cough up, a lot of money to get hooked up at that time as well. So it'd have to be a joint, when he's ready to go, the neighbors are going to have some cash up too.
The only other comment I had is, and I hadn't thought of the angle that Mr. Evans suggested, that maybe, and I don't know how practical this is, but to have the developer put up some money, if the homeowners match it or something within 5 years, then maybe it gets done. If they don't, then he gets his money back. But I don't know if that really makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, the issue...
Have we ever done that? Have we ever done that?
Undergrounding utilities, no.
Okay. Any further comment? We've got a motion and a second.
Yeah, the only comment I would make is before it goes to council is that it sounds like there's a little more investigation on that east property and the Strebe thing, and whatever you discover, bring to them.
Bring it up then.
What we'll do is Alex will go out and get names and phone numbers, and we'll sit down with the developer, Mr. Hitchcock, who understands utilities as well as anybody in the business, so that everybody can understand this a little bit better, because undergrounding utility has some requirements from Southern California Edison that we can't dictate back to them, because at times we'd love to put them in the rear property lines. The only problem is to dig them up. It's really disruptive to tear out walls and sometimes other improvements to come back if you ever have to dig up the utility.
Okay, call for the question.
Any other comments? Call for any other comments? Okay, we'll all those in favor.
We need a roll call.
We need a roll call vote. Sorry, we had the public hearing, so I have a roll call vote. Thank you, Michelle.
Mr. Hokanado?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mr. Grinch?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Ms. Morantz?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberg?
Aye. So the matter passes 6-0, or 6 with 0 with 1 abstention. We'll move on to number 4 as soon as we get our Tracy back. This is case 5.0992 CUP, application by Verizon Wireless to construct a 60-foot high commercial communication lattice tower antenna on Desert Water Agency property located at 1200 South Gene Autry Trail, Zone M1, Section 19. Staff report.
Thank you. This is an application by Verizon Wireless to build a 60-foot lattice tower, communication tower. The property is located at 1200 South Gene Autry Trail. It is part of the Desert Water Agency property, and as you can see from the aerial here, Mesquite is to the north of the proposed site, and Gene Autry is to the west. The lattice tower will consist of Verizon's communication arrays and 2 internal communication dishes. At a later point, it will also contain some of Desert Water Agency's internal communication antenna as well. The site is very desertscape. There's minimal landscaping. The perimeter is secured by a chain link fence, which Desert Water Agency owns also. The property to the east is under proposed development by Noya Investments, and they have written a letter in support of the cell site tower. Soak City Water Park is to the south. It's approximately 250 to 500 feet away from the proposed cell site tower. The nearest residential area is to the south, and it's approximately 2,000 feet away from the cell site tower. The cell site tower is also approximately 900 feet to the south of Mesquite Avenue and approximately 700 feet to the east of Gene Autry Trail. Gene Autry Trail is heavily landscaped. Staff has visited the site, has evaluated what the line of sight would be from Gene Autry, considering that is a scenic corridor for the general plan, and you will not be able to see the cell site tower at all from Gene Autry. When we visited the site, we went along Mesquite Avenue also. The cell site tower would be minimal, almost non-existent, and there is a proposed future development along Mesquite Avenue, which will include a landscape park along Mesquite, which will further minimize the visual impact. We have a letter from the Desert Water Agency, who is the property owner in support of the project also, and who will ultimately own the tower at the end of the day. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions to staff before we open the public hearing?
I have a question. This is right directly in the flight path of the airport?
Airport staff has been advised of the tower. FAA is not requiring any obstruction light. The airport is requiring a obstruction light to be installed at the top of the tower.
Okay. And also, what is the proposed height on the building that NOIA is proposing? Do we remember?
The large hotel is, I believe, 120 feet, but that's probably well over a half mile away. Adjacent to this property, I think the buildings are approximately 30 feet high.
Okay.
And this site is actually adjacent to what would be a portion of the golf course.
Okay, because started looking at future, if they put the tower up here, then they build a building next to it, and they're going to block what the tower is there for with the new building. So that wouldn't be a problem. It'd still be
the
taller
tall
than
building's
the building.
a long ways away. It's almost it's at the Whitewater Wash, so you're probably in excess of a half mile away.
Thank you.
And Verizon has talked with the developer to the east to ensure that this will not be in the way of, the development will not be in the way of the arrays.
Yeah, we actually had a meeting with Desert Water Agency on site before the application was submitted, and the tower location was moved westerly a fair distance just so it was further away from that future golf course site. And what we did was we took a look at this, and there's been a lot of study on different types of towers, lattice towers versus column towers relative to wind turbines. And in taking a look at this, because of the primary areas that you're going to look at it from the distance on Mesquite or Crosley or adjoining property, it's got a good mountain backdrop, so it's got a dark backdrop. And actually the lattice tower will probably fade away better than a column would. Column certainly looks more high-tech than a lattice tower. From the Oasis Water Park, Desert Water Agency reclamation plant, the very large white saucers on that facility, you really don't have much of a public view of it. And once the DWA makes an active use of the property to the south of the communication tower, you probably wouldn't even see it from the parking lot of Oasis Water Park, or Soak City, excuse me. I'm dating myself.
If no further questions, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to address the commission on this matter may do so at this time. Please confine your comments to 3 minutes. Give us your name and address and sign the clipboard, please, before you leave.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Dale Stubblefield. I'm with Delta Groups Engineering, representing Verizon Wireless. First of all, I'd like to thank city staff for their help and cooperation in preparing this report. We've read and concur with the conditions of approval and the findings of fact. As Dave Luker from the Desert Water Agency is also here, he can answer any questions that you may have in regards to the location of this tower. Many of the reasons of the location of it is for line of sight issues to their water tanks, and that's one of the reasons that this location was primarily chosen for them to work best for all three parties, including the project to the east. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. I'll just keep it short.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any more questions, comments, or motions?
I got a motion. Mr. Chairman, this is exactly where a tower ought to be. I was in that group that had to identify places in the city, so I'd move approval of case 5.0992, subject to the conditions, the revised conditions. And I would also add that I applaud Mr. Noya's support being adjacent there.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call vote, please.
No.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Ms. Conrad? Aye. Mr. Grinch?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Ms. Morant?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberg?
Aye. Passes 6-1. The last item on our agenda is item number 5, recreational vehicle permit. An appeal of staff denial of a recreational vehicle permit by Keely Smith and Charles Kachi for approval to park their recreational vehicle within the front yard setback located at 1055 Paseo El Mirador, Zone R1C, Section 11.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I will be abstaining on this item. I own an RV park in Palm Springs and feel that this could be a conflict.
And I also have to abstain on this item because one of the lawyers in my office has done legal work for the applicant. So I will turn the matter over to Mr. Matthews and excuse myself. And since this is the last item, I'm going to depart. So, Mr. Matthews, will you adjourn
I'll wrap
me?
it up.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, John.
He's already, the chairman's read this item into the agenda, or into the, so do we have a staff report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Gabriel Diaz will give the staff report, and at the completion of his report, I might have some additional comments. And Dirk Voss, Community Preservation Division, is here to answer any questions that might come up in that regard.
Before you begin, what we'll do is we'll get a staff report, ask some questions, and open the public hearing, and you can come up and give your testimony.
To give you some history on the RV application, back in January, the Kachis submitted an application for an RV. The RV is 38 feet long, parked within their front yard and side yard setbacks. Here's some pictures of the RV and how it sits on their property. Here's their site plan that they have provided. Their home is there. On one side of the property, to the west here, which is here, it is screened from the adjacent property and it's not visible if you're heading eastbound on Paseo El Mirador. If you're heading westbound, you are able to see it. The reason staff denied this application is because the RV is over 24 feet long and within the front yard setback. As you can see, it goes all the way to the front property line. And it's not screened, as you are able to see it from adjacent properties. With their submittal, they did propose to have landscaping on rollers to be planted or put in place, so you would not see it if you were heading eastbound on Paseo El Mirador. That concludes my staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Mr. Evans?
Gabriel did an outstanding job. I don't need to add anything.
Well, that's good. Any questions of the staff?
I guess I'd like to know, under what circumstances may you park your RV in the front yard if it's beyond the setback and you have an appropriate garage space? It cannot be parked in the front setback according to ordinance. Is that correct?
The ordinance does allow for a provision to issue a permit if it doesn't comply with all the criteria. What we've done is looked at this very carefully, and based upon community value, staff has not issued any permits for visible RVs in front yards. So, and this ordinance has been around since 1987. In fact, not too long ago, we denied a similar type request just a few streets north of this property.
Anything further? Okay, this is a matter for public hearing, and at this time I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on the item, please state your name right on the clipboard and try and limit your comments to 3 minutes each.
Keely Smith, 1055 El Mirador.
Okay.
Charles Kachi, 1055 El Mirador.
We have had 3 motorhomes. We've never had any problem with our motorhomes being in the same location there and that this one is in right now. We have 2 neighbors across the street who are the ones that have been calling in all the complaints for over 1 year. We don't know why he can't even see the motorhome unless he comes out to his mailbox, which is on the curb. We don't keep it running. Nobody lives in it. We perform. We're in and out of town all the time. It enables us to take care of our motorhome when we're in town, refurbish it, whatever, clean it. We just don't understand why one person or 2 men can create this much problem. And my thinking is there should be more than 1 complaint in the neighborhood. We have letters from our neighbors. It has not bothered anyone else, only these 2 men.
The people that are complaining about the motorhome, who do live across the street from us, live across and 2 doors down. They can't see the motorhome from their house at all. There are 4 other motorhomes on our street, and it doesn't seem to bother them. Now, the people that are complaining just recently put their house up for sale. And I feel that no one person should have that power. In other words, if my dog does duty on his lawn and he wants to get even with me, then he picks up the phone and complains to the city about it. If the ordinance is for one, it's for everybody. And I just feel that that power should not lie in the hands of 2 people, 2 individuals, when we've questioned all our other neighbors and it doesn't seem to bother anybody. It doesn't obstruct anybody's view. It's a beautiful motorhome, and I sure as heck wouldn't want to put this $250,000 motorhome someplace else. That's why I bought a home. I have a home, and it sets back. It's within our gates. It's not on the street, and it's a beautiful vehicle. Your planning staff has been very, very patient with us. They've helped us. They've tried to tell us exactly how this thing works. I think the ordinance should be changed. I really feel that there should be at least 3 neighbors complaining about it, so that the motorhome would be moved if it was obstructing or creating some kind of a problem. When our neighbors don't complain about it, except the 2 people that live in the same dwelling, by the way, they're the only ones that are complaining, and I feel it's a sense of harassment now, because I know they keep logs. They just keep calling and calling and calling and calling. So if this this permit can be issued to us, we'd really, really appreciate that, because like my wife said, we're always on the road. We come home, we condition it, and no one lives in it. It doesn't run at any time. It's dry docked. So that's
Thank you very much.
I need to add one thing. We've also offered to put an awning around it to camouflage it. We've offered to do whatever we need to do to be able to keep it there.
Okay. Thank you.
Or even build some kind of a planters to put around it so you can't see it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else care to address the commission? With that, I'll close the public hearing and turn it back to the commission for discussion. If there are no questions, I have a question of the applicant. Now, you say you've had 3-4 motorhomes or something there. How long have you had those parked there? For how many years?
I've been here 30.
So like 15, 20 years?
We've had them at
Okay. I used to live around the corner there, and I don't remember them. But I always approach from the west.
I have a question. Sorry, Jerry.
Please.
If there were a variance to come to the Planning Commission to build an RV garage in this neighborhood, what would the requirements be, and would it be granted, or would it be grantable by the Planning Commission?
Well, it would really depend upon what the variance is for. I mean, somebody, if they meet all the code requirements for setbacks and the like, can build an RV garage, and we have them in town. On this particular property, because of the way the property is built, it's basically built from side yard to side yard across the entire frontage. So, you know, anything that on this property that would be built would have to be a violation, or would require a variance to front yard setback, possibly side yard setbacks. You know, I think, you know, one of the key provisions, and I think the Mr. Kachi, you know, pointed it out, is, you know, the way the code is written, you know, a coach this big, and when they pull it in, it comes as close to touching the building as you can, and they have to lift the gate off and put the gate back to get the coach in, you know, because it's literally property line to building line. The way the code reads, you know, that if the coach is in excess of 24 feet, as long as that point in excess of 24 feet is back in the side yard behind the front property line, we could have a large coach that encroaches and be screened. But this is a 38-foot coach that literally is from the building to the front property line.
I was looking on their site plan that on the other side of the property from where this is parked, there's a garage. And I was just positing maybe it could go on the other side and have the garage rebuilt to be able to accommodate it with a variance into the front yard setback. And I guess my only other comment is that while I'm very sympathetic and you've had some really lovely neighbors, the reason why this one person has power over you is because you've been breaking the law. And I think that you've had very tolerant neighbors, and it's against the rules. So that's my feeling about it.
Any motions?
Well, I guess just first a comment is that I suspect 24-foot coach was the average length of coaches when it was written. As you look back into the 60s, 70s, coaches were smaller. Things are as big as buses now. So I drive by there every day. I never even, you know, I see it, and I can tell you that I drive by 20 other places that also have big motorhomes parked in the front yard right in the neighborhood. So I guess with that, I move approval of a recreation vehicle permit for Keely Smith and Charles Kachi.
Mr. Chairman?
Sir?
I think that's in violation of the ordinance, and this is not a variance proceeding. This is a municipal code provision, and variances don't apply.
So
I don't think you can approve it. If you would like to ask that question officially, my suggestion is that you continue this for 2 weeks, ask staff to consult with the city attorney. But it's a code provision. It's in the municipal code. Municipal code says it shall, and I'm not sure you have the...
But
okay.
Then a question, then why did it come to us as
because they have the right to appeal.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I denied a permit, and they have the right to appeal. I'm sorry I put you in an awkward position, but if you would like to ask that question, it's not been asked. Okay. We could certainly continue this for 2 weeks. This has been ongoing for a number of years.
Actually, I think that the proper venue, and the applicant actually brought it up, is either change the ordinance and you can take it to the higher authority, namely the council, and ask them to change the ordinance, because we're not the venue that can do that. We enforce the current municipal code the way it is, and try and accommodate as reasonable requests when we can. So actually, I would move that we have to deny it.
Wait a second.
I will remove my motion.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
just hold on a second here.
Yeah, so I would unfortunately move to deny the appeal of staff denial for a recreational vehicle permit at 1055 Paseo El Mirador.
I'll second that motion.
To your question, even though this is not supposed to be a dialogue, you go to the city council and say that we think that the ordinance is unfair, we want to change the ordinance, or you come back to us with a request for a variance to encroach on the front yard setback, and then we can go through the public hearing process. And this, not in this proceeding. This proceeding is asking us if you're in code enforcement violation or not, and you are. So you want to apply for a variance instead of a recreational vehicle permit? That's a whole nother ballgame, is it not? Okay, or go to the city council.
Yeah,
That's the right answer.
Yeah, this is a municipal code provision that's independent of zoning, and zoning deals with variances. So it's a little bit awkward for the commission because, you know, the commission doesn't approve municipal codes, and yet, you know, in this particular case, you're the hearing body.
So to answer the question for these folks, if they wanted to continue to do this, they really have to apply for a variance. Is that the correct?
What they'll...
You got to get an ordinance change.
An ordinance change, they can appeal the commission denial, and that way they would have a meeting before the city council where the city council could debate this. I can tell you that we've debated the pros and cons of different RV ordinances since Councilmember Hodges was on the first put on the council, or elected to the council. And you know, if she's watching, I know that she believes that we should not regulate RVs, and that's been her position for a long time.
Well, yeah, and I'm not exactly sure how to describe this action that comes before us but you're basically telling us we only have one choice. So it's really sort of a Hobson's choice on what's going here.
Or you could ask me to go meet and confer with the city attorney and come back, because
he's going to tell you exactly what he's told you the last 22 times this happened. So it isn't like this is new information. What I think we're going to do is we'll take a vote here, see what happens. If it's denied, you can appeal it to the city council and take it up there. With that, why don't we go to a roll call vote?
Mr. Hokanado?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Ms. Conrad? Mr. Grant?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
No. Okay, that I think is there any other business? Oh. Quick adjourn.
What do we miss?
Just one quick thing, and it needs to be public, that this is our last meeting with Michelle, and we need to thank Michelle very much for all of her work and her goodies and everything else she has provided for us.
Thank you very much. It's really been a pleasure.
And
Thank you,
Mr.
Paul.
Schoenberger said to please tell you that he says the same thing. And if there's no other comments, no other business, meeting adjourned.